Hello and welcome back to the next part of this tutorial. So we had gotten ourselves to this point, and we did this in class as well, where we had our character, our non-player character, moving between 2 points, and we could go through our door and then have the non-player character follow us. And then if we got sufficient distance away, it would return to its path. So we're not going to do too much more in this, but what we are going to do is change a little bit of the behavior to make it a little bit more like the game that we're kind of basing this on. So in that game, the character has sort of like a radar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this, I'm going to edit this box just, or this cube, a fraction. So I'm just going to hit subdivide, and I'm going to go GY. And the reason I'm doing that is just to give it a little bit of directionality. Now my collision's going to be set a little bit, but so we can see that it's moving not on Y. So let's have a look at where it's moving on X. So let's undo our good work. So let's go GX and again hit P. So now we're that the character is moving in a particular direction, and we can see that direction. Very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a radar. Now, so let's have a look at this. So at the moment what we've got is we've got our kind of waypoints set up on our steering bricks, and then we've got this kind of Boolean logic which is toggling on and off. And then we have put in an additional steering brick which says when it's near, follow the player. So let's have a look at this near brick, and let's replace it with a radar. The radar is built in to Blender, so it's they're the good people who made this anticipated us wanting a radar. So we put a variable excuse me, called player, which is we're just using as a tag. So we're going to have the radar look for that. So let's go back here and have a look. So we're looking for the property player. Okay, and then the axis that, and the reason we've put a we changed the physicality of our character so we can see what direction it's moving in, is so that we can understand what axis we want to project our radar from. So our radar is going to come positively along X. So let's have a look at our character. So the nose, or the front of our character, is positive on X. So that suits us, that's perfect. And what distance do we want the radar? Well, let's give it a decent distance to start with. Let's give it a distance of, say, 5. And an angle. So this is sort of the shape of the cone that is going to work. So let's give it an angle. Let's give it a, say, 45-degree angle. So not too broad, but broad enough. Now this means that we can approach the character from behind, and the character will not, or the non-player character will not see us. But when it turns around, if we're within this 45-degree cone, within this distance, it will see us. Okay, so let's put our theory into practice. And I cannot see the player. So P, and off we go. So in we go into our house. The player is now towards us, and we can approach it from behind and it doesn't see us, but now it does. We can run away, and again, just to kind of illustrate, it doesn't see us from behind but does from in front. Now let's give it a bigger distance here. So let's set this up to see, let's be 10, say, because that will profoundly change our gameplay. And CCleaner is telling me to go do something, so we'll ignore that. Let's go P and move in. And again, I can move right up behind the character, it doesn't see me. But now it's got a range of 10. And now it's back to its path. So the only other thing that we need to add in with this radar is to try and, again, like in the game, emulate the fact that the player can see the radar. So there's numerous ways to do that. I suppose the easiest way to do it is with a light. Now let's just, because we haven't done this yet, I'm going to select my nav mesh, and I'm going to press H to hide. I'm going to go into solid mode, and then let's have a look in material mode at how the game is actually going to look. Now here's my the only lamp really I have at the moment, so let's rotate that downward. So we have some sort of sun, and we'll go have a look at the properties of that. So it's white light, that's all good. So when I press P in the game engine, I can see something. It's not very beautiful. And we're on GLSL, which is enabling our graphics card. So let's actually change this to being a point light, and that adds a whole different sort of atmosphere to the game. Okay, and now over here I'm going to go Shift A, add lamp spot, and we're going to move this spot up here. Now let's have a look. The spot by default has an angle of 45 degrees, which just happens to coincide with the angle that we have picked, and we can place that right above the character. At this stage the character is casting its own shadow onto the ground, and we can do interesting things, like we can say that we want a square shadow, and we can also dictate the shape of the shadow if you want. And then when we hit P in the game, that shadow is interactive, but as you can see there, it's not exactly ideal. So let's take this object here, actually take the lamp, and then right click on the cube and go Control P, so set parent. So now when I press P and play the game, this is going to move with me. So if you want to kind of emulate the kind of the style of the other game that we're emulating, and the way it uses radar, you can do it this way. And then there's numerous other ways. We could actually put in sort of like a disc or an arc and actually make it as a plane, and then illuminate it using a material that emitted light rather than using an actual lamp here. But this is a nice way to do it. Keep in mind that when the player interacts with this, the player will also be illuminated when it gets too close to the player. So that's one way to do it. So I think it was only a short tutorial, but that's all we're sort of kind of looking at now, just how to use radar as a method of detection by the non-player character while looking for our character. And the next time we look at this game, I'm going to have populated it with objects, and we're going to look at how to beautify it. So we're going to put in carpets and wallpaper and all sorts of interesting sort of objects and furniture, and turn it into something more aesthetically pleasing.